right, from here we're just going to jump into the pros and cons. So we're going to work in descending order, and we're going to start with cons instead of pros because I think we just talked a lot of good things about the city. So we'll start talking about reasons that people may not want to live in the West Loop. So let's go with con number 5. What do you think is the fifth reason that somebody may want to consider moving somebody somewhere else? Excuse me.
I would say, let's call it what it is. Weather is not fantastic in Chicago. I have lived a lot of places. That is not the reason I stay here. So if you can deal with the winter months being a little bit brutal, you do get to experience what I would say is the best summer city in America, which is Chicago. But yeah, you're going to deal with some brutal winters here in West Loop. There's no two cents about it.
Brutal winters, and you get a solid week or two of spring. Um,
Yeah, yeah, maybe less this year. I don't know.
I feel like there was 3 days in the 65s, and then we just shot into the 80s. Um,
Right into the 80s. Yep.
yeah, that's awesome, though. I mean, hey, you can't beat 80 degrees. All right, cool. Let's jump into the next one. What is con number 4 for the West Loop?
I think if you talk to any Chicagoan, especially somebody who's been here for a while, property taxes are something that we like to complain about, and rightfully so. If you look around the nation, we do have some of the highest property taxes out there. So, something to just be eyes wide open on. Property taxes are high. Property taxes probably will continue to rise if I know anything about Chicago taxes. So, if you're coming here, there is a price to be here.
Taxes go up, they don't go down.
Yeah, not very often at least.
Yeah. Well, you can contest them every year, and that's always worth a
That's
shot.
right. Don't forget, and you
Yeah,
should. Yeah.
absolutely. So cool. We are on con number 3. Let's jump into it.
I thought about this morning. I was talking with clients coming in from Colorado, and they were complaining about access to nature. And I agree with them. I think that Chicago has limited access in some ways to, if you're used to being hiking heavy or skiing heavy, this is the Midwest. So you might be able to find it in Wisconsin or drive elsewhere to get it. But really, other than like Starved Rock and some of the surrounding hiking trails, it's not a huge nature city.
Absolutely correct. I was just going to mention Starved Rock. It's like you could hit up Starved Rock, but it's like an hour and a half away from the West Loop. So
Yeah, it's a drive. Yeah,
it's a bit of a
it's worth
drive.
doing, but
Oh,
it's
definitely.
a drive.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, that is probably the best hiking trail. There's a couple smaller ones in the West Burbs and stuff, but there's nothing special, right? I mean, it's just a
Nothing
trail.
crazy. Yeah.
So cool. All right, let's just jump right into it. What is con number 2?
I thought about this one when I was driving, and I realized that the Jackson Street overpass has been out for like 6 months now. Construction is a part of Chicago life. It is the bloodline of how we have redeveloped and rebuilt, and however much we've done repeatedly throughout the city. But get used to it. We have bridges that are out. We've got roads under construction. We've got a lot of potholes, and we've got, I don't know, 50 to 70 cranes in the sky at any given time building high rises left and right. So now there's a big old casino coming to River West. There's going to be construction there too. So construction is a part of life here. Love it or hate it, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, the old adage, right? There's 2 seasons in Chicago. We got winter and road construction. I love that you mentioned the building of the high rises and stuff too, because this is something that is so awesome with Chicago. Because not only like in the 1840s, like they raised the city up 14 feet because they're like, we're too close to the lake. We just built it. Like they're the only. I think that's the only time in history that's ever happened. We're like, we're not moving. We're staying here. And then there's that, and obviously the Chicago fire that led to a dramatic rebuild of the whole city. And then the World Fair, I believe it was in 1893, also led to a huge just remodel of the whole city. So I mean, Chicago has been constantly reinventing itself, and it's so cool to see that it's still doing so. Um, awesome answer. I love that one.
I feel like that's kind of a part of who Chicago is, or what Chicago is. It's a constant rebuilding. We are constantly changing in terms of what the demand for inventory is. And if you're ever driving around some of these neighborhoods and you look around and you're like, wow, there are so many different diverse types of architecture, chances are good it might have burnt down at one point, and that's how that worked in there. So it's a very unique part of our history that has led to where we are today.
Absolutely, 100%. So here we are. We're on the worst one, right? Like, what is the worst part of the West Loop? Let's jump right into it.
I had to think about this one because I don't know that I think about it in terms of a worst part, but I went back to when my father came to visit. He lives in Scottsdale, Arizona, slower pace of life, likes to go hiking, kind of where he's at. And when he was here, he felt like it was very busy. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of traffic. And I think that that's fair. As much as we do have a community environment, we have access to green space, it does feel like it's a little bit smaller. It's not slow paced. This is a downtown marketplace. We've got access to some of the largest headquarters in the city and in the United States, especially with things like McDonald's right around the corner. So, you have to get used to the fact that you live in a big city, and this is certainly a reflection of that.
100%. And if you include the metro area, it's just short of 10. So, I mean, we're still,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And put yourself right near the metro stations. It's
oh,
like, oh, you get
yeah,
everybody coming
definitely.
in,
Well, yeah, it's
right?
like the
That's
taste of
kind of how
Chicago
it
where you
goes.
can't take two steps without shoulder bumping somebody, right? I
Shuts
oh,
everything down.
definitely. Awesome. I love the cons. I think they were all extremely valid and informative. So thank you for giving those. We're going to jump to the pros. We're going to get a little bit more on the positive side of the West Loop. There's hundreds of reasons to live in that West Loop. So I'm sure it was a challenge picking five of the best ones. But let's start with the fifth best one.
I have to say that access. I said this earlier. I drive my car a lot just by nature of being a real estate agent. So access for me means getting on 290 or 90 or having access to the surface streets so that I can cut up to Wicker Park or wherever my showings might take me. But I think even if you don't have a car, the metros are here so you can get in or out of the city. We've got great access via bikes or foot traffic. It's just super easy. I mean, people before COVID bought in West Loop because they could walk to the loop and go to work like that. And I think that if and when life comes back to that, that's really what West Loop provides. Is it's sort of the cross point of all these great access roads to Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get to anywhere from the West Loop. Absolutely. 100%. Let's just jump to the next one. What is number four for you?
We talked about it, and I think for me, the outdoor space that we have here, you recognize that Lincoln Park will forever be the pinnacle of outdoor space in Chicago and green space, if you will. But here in Les Swoop, we do a great job of accessing our outdoor space and taking advantage of it. So you go to Mary Bartlemy Park, and they've got like the farmers market that happens every week, or they did the Easter egg hunt out in the open space. So, or obviously Skinner Park, I've already talked about, is just well kept. It's so beautiful all the time, even though it gets so heavily used. And that's because the community keeps it that way. There's a community garden on the far west side as well, which is awesome. So I think that the green space here is one of the best reasons to move here because you can really get that downtown feel, but also have some escape, even though we have limited access.
Absolutely. Cool. Let's just jump right into the next one. What is number three?
I think it's the food scene. It's hard not to put that number one, but I think everybody puts it number one. So I'm just putting it at three, and we're going to come up with some better ones. But like it truly, if you're looking for Michelin star restaurants, we've got them in the West Loop. If you're just looking to go have a casual lunch or a deli sandwich, we've got it in the West Loop. If you're looking for some kind of like speakeasy, you got to go under a restaurant, small table experience, we got it in the West Loop. Like this is just the if food is the heart of Chicago, which I believe it is, West Loop is the core of that heart. So I think that food is a huge reason to live here.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the Chicago food scene is underrated a lot on a national scale. I believe we're third in the country, if I remember correctly, in Michelin stars. We're number 15 or something in the world, or 12. We're top
Yeah,
15.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
It's
the
unbelievable.
food is fantastic. You'll never run out of options in Chicago. It's ridiculous because the suburbs got tons of options too.
And so diverse too, right? We have so many cultures and so many. The cool thing is we have so many rising star
Mhm.
chefs who are starting to establish their name or their restaurant brands, and we've seen some of them become, universally recognizable, like Stephanie Izzard and all the crew. But I think that there are so many young chefs with new restaurants here in Chicago that it's a very exciting place to be, and like I said, the West Loop supports small business, we support new chefs, and we get everybody a chance.
I love how you mentioned the cultural outlook too, because Chicago is one of the most culturally diverse cities in the world. Most people don't know this. We're number two in Hispanics, obviously to LA. We also were number one in Lithuanians. They actually consider Chicago like a home away from home, and obviously, I mean, a mixture of everything else. But yeah, I mean, it's so culturally diverse. If you want any type of food, you could find it in the city, and you could probably find it very good. All right. So, what is the number two pro to living in the West Loop?
I talked about it a little bit earlier. I do think that we have access to awesome entertainment. I love the fact that if I'm bored on any given night, chances are good I can even go pick up a Bulls ticket for relatively cheap after the game has started, and that just fills the evening, right? It's a very Chicago thing to do. It's very accessible, and I think West Loop makes it easy to do that. You can have drinks somewhere, dinner somewhere else, go take on an event, and you can do it all without having to walk more than 5 to 10 blocks. So I think the entertainment scene here is just super accessible, and it's one of the most enjoyable parts of living here.
I couldn't agree more. Awesome. Let's jump to the best part. What is the number one pro of living in the West Loop?
This has got to be the sense of community. I like I said, I've lived in a lot of different communities, but West Loop is welcoming. They support the people who live here. They embrace the people who are coming here. We're going through a lot of change as neighbors right now with the explosion of Fulton Market and seeing everything that's coming from that. So, all that's done is bring this community together, and you see that when we do things like Taste of Randolph or the Greektown Festival, or you just see how this community rallies to support everybody that is here. In particular, if you get on these message boards with the local communities, you just learn so much about your neighbors and how much they actually care about living here and supporting it here. And it doesn't hurt that in the background, prices are appreciating over 5%. So it's all good things.
I love that you just threw that in there right at the end. It's like, and prices are appreciating at
Had to
5%.
do it. The real estate in me, I had to
Yeah,
do
that's awesome.
it.
Well, cool. I mean, I think you've proven your knowledge. Thank you so much for your time. Obviously, you've shown that you are the agent to work with in the West Loop. So, can you please let our audience know the best way to get in touch with you if they are looking to buy or sell in the West Loop?
Absolutely. You can always contact me on my cell phone. You just please send me a text, call, email anytime. It's not too late. So I'll give that out now, 215-622-4379. Call me anytime. Or if you just want to follow along, because I do share a lot of my social journey with real estate, Matt Thomas Chi, CHI. You can find me on Instagram. Give me a follow. Like I said, happy to answer any direct messages. And I do post a lot of educational content to help people buy.
All right, so there you have it, people. Matt is the guy to talk to in the West Loop. You know how to reach him. I encourage you to please reach out to him if you're looking in that area. And that about wraps up the show for tonight. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.